are the 5 daily habits that you're doing on a day-to-day basis that really destroy your focus. The very first bad habit I see that destroys focus, and I see this all the time with my patients and clients, has a lot to do with people to think that it's a good idea to start skipping meals. And it's not to our fault. A lot of people with ADHD, especially people who have a hard time focusing and remembering things, will tend to forget to eat breakfast, so they'll skip breakfast. And then when lunch comes around, they might forget to eat lunch, and then they might have a later lunch, or it gets so bad that they don't eat until about dinner time, and then they just binge eat. So let me explain why this is such a bad habit than what the obvious is. Like, we understand that, yes, we need to have nutrients throughout the day to feed our body, like that's important. But when you decide you're going to eat on a particular day, you need to have consistency. And this has a lot to do with your blood sugar. So when you skip meals and you binge eat later in the day, it's going to spike your blood sugars. And this definitely will impact your focus drastically. In fact, you probably need the focus more in the morning. You probably need it more in the afternoon, but not necessarily at nighttime, but that's when you are consuming more of your food and hitting these high spikes of blood sugar. And so you're gonna have these dips of blood sugar when you're not eating consistent food. But on top of that, some of the other big challenges that I see, especially for those who suffer with focus or have ADHD, is that they don't get enough consistent proteins in their diet with each meal. And so if you're someone that, yes, eats 3 meals a day, what you're probably not doing, and what I see this as a common problem, is you're not getting proteins in each meal. In fact, what I see that happens more is you're having more of a higher carb diet with probably very little protein or none at all, which is going to spike your blood sugars, which is going to definitely impact your focus, but also even your energy. You're going to hit those crashes because of your blood sugar. So it's very important to have proteins at every single meal, because these amino acids are very essential to not only for the body, but also for the brain, but also for important neurotransmitters, such as like dopamine and norepinephrine, that require these different amino acids and to have more consistency throughout the day. So if you want consistent focus and to not destroy your focus, is please have consistent meals, don't skip meals, and make sure that you're getting protein at each meal. So a very simple solution that I do tell my patients and clients is, especially if you're not someone that likes eating in the morning and you tend to skip breakfast, I tell them to not necessarily skip it, but you could do something simple, even if it's just eating eggs or some hard-boiled organic eggs. There's great amount of proteins and fat and nutrients that can be provided for the body and for the brain, and to stabilize your blood sugar so it could be consistent throughout the day so it doesn't destroy your focus. Another really bad habit that I see that definitely destroys people's focus is around sleep. Now, we know that sleep is very vital, and you probably noticed that if you don't get a good night's sleep, you tend to feel really moody and crappy, and your focus is not great, you're not productive, you have low energy. Like, we all know that. But there's certain habits that happen before we go to sleep that causes the impact of our quality of sleep. And some of these bad habits that I see constantly happen over and over again is, one, having your cell phone in front of you when you're in bed. That light and that exposure will communicate to your brain that it isn't dark out, that it's not nighttime, and therefore it will not release and produce the hormones that it needs necessary to make you fall asleep, which is melatonin. So this also applies to watching TV. And so what I suggest here, instead of watching something, is actually listen to something. That's something that I do a lot with myself, as well as I tell my patients and clients, is to listen to a podcast or a YouTube video that you don't necessarily need to watch, but you can listen to, and it can be dark out, and that can get you tired, and it's dark enough, and that can give you a good night's sleep. On top of that, another bad habit that people do is they love to jack up the temperature, thinking that, they're cold at night, especially if you're someone that tends to be cold. Don't do that, because it's really important to actually have the temperature about 68 degrees or below, because there's a lot enough research out here that has shown us that when we do decrease the temperature at night, it does help activate certain hormones that are very necessary for our sleep. So by decreasing the temperature can definitely help with the sleep. And then, of course, not eating late at night. That's another really bad habit, because that's going to activate your digestive system. So stop eating probably no later than 7 to 8 o'clock. I wouldn't go any past that time, because that's definitely going to disrupt your sleep cycle. The third habit that is destroying your focus has a lot to do with your work environment, or if you're a student, your study environment. And what I'm referring to is distractions. Distractions are definitely the ultimate destroyer when it comes to our focus. If we get distracted, even just for a minute, it will take us out of our hyper-focus mode. It'll take us 20 to 30 minutes just to get back back into the momentum that we were in that focus state. So if you get distracted 5-10 times a day, you're probably having about anywhere from an hour to 2 hours of unproductive time because you're getting distracted too much. So the things that really destroy the focus of constantly getting distracted, the obvious one is definitely your cell phone. Your cell phone going off all the time is causing those distractions. So do you need to have your cell phone in your work environment? Can you put it in a different room? Can you shut it off altogether? Now, if it's something that you need to use for work like I do, I put on focus mode. And so if that's another bad habit, if you're not putting your phone in focus mode and you need it for work, you should. And you can decide what to allow to distract you. And it should only really be your boss, your manager, or just certain things that are very important to your business or wherever you work that need to distract you. But everything else, all social platforms, anything like that needs to be silenced so it doesn't distract you. The other things that you should keep in mind, are you distracted by sitting next to a window? Is there things outside that are distracting you? Do you need to move the position of your desk so it doesn't distract you? Also, noise. I mean, a lot of people work at home like I do. I have noisy kids. So what I do, and this is a great solution for people who can't really necessarily eliminate noise, is use white noise. Use a white noise machine. If that's not enough, what I usually will do is use headphones and listen to white noise to drown out my noisy kids and other distractions that could happen outside. So it's a great way to be hyper-focused. If you need more help and guidance on having better focus and energy, then you should download my all-day focus and energy guide in the description below. The fourth bad habit I see that destroys focus has a lot to do with something that I think a lot of us do. And that is always creating a big, huge, long to-do list. Now, why I think this is a bad idea is when you create a to-do list that has 10 plus things, you get stressed trying to finish all 10 of those items. Now, what happens is this takes bandwidth in your brain of trying to do all 10 of those things. So you can't fixate or focus on one thing at a time. You're constantly thinking those in the back of your head. And so it definitely will destroy your focus. So what I suggest, and this is what I suggest to all my patient clients, is to narrow it down to no more than 3 things. 3 things, because 3 things are easy to remember, and 3 things I think is big enough for someone to try to accomplish in a day. And when you do that, you can hyperfixate on that one thing and not be distracted of taking the bandwidth in your head of all these other 10, 12, multiple other things. Now, on the other side of this, if there's any like small tasks, to-do tasks, like, picking up the mail, picking up groceries, paying the bills, something like a task that only takes 5 minutes or less, I do suggest actually creating a list for that because it only should take you about 5 minutes or so and getting them done. Like first thing, get them just done and get them out of your head so it doesn't take the bandwidth so you can be hyper-fixated on those 3 things that you want to accomplish that day. Now, the 5th bad habit, I always say this significantly will impact someone's focus. It will destroy it. And this has to do allowing certain stressors into your life. And stress definitely impacts focus. I've seen it time and time again with my patients and clients. And if you don't address the stress, doesn't matter all the other good habits you're implementing, it won't be as effective. And the things I'm referring to is kind of going back to your work environment. Are you in a stressful work environment that you need to be looking for a different place to work? Or are you in a bad relationship? But even more so, what I say is a bigger problem is people have a hard time saying no to things and they will constantly say yes. So it adds on more to their plate. So think about it this way. Whenever you say yes, what are you actually saying no to you, right? Because every time you say yes, you're probably saying no to your health. You're saying no to your goals that you have in your life. You're saying no to your family, probably. You're saying no to your fulfillment in life and the success that you want to have in your life. So think about that every time you decide to say yes. Hopefully this can help you to say no. It's okay to say no because the more you put on your plate, it just causes more stress and it's going to impact and destroy your focus every time. So start saying no and start saying yes to yourself. And yes to your health. Now, I understand these habits take time to be able to have that optimal focus. And what I usually like to do is understand the ins and outs of my patients and clients, what body chemistry imbalance I have, and what can be some just easy initial stepping stone to implementing some supplements or nootropics that can change the body chemistry. But all the other habits I just mentioned are going to be the long-term solution. But sometimes it's good to start with taking some supplements to get things going. So watch this video next where I actually dive in deep explaining how I actually determine what are the best supplements for helping with focus. So watch this video next.